Hi, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap up, and in April I read 7 books and a total of 2,643 pages. So I had a really good reading month this month, lots of books which I really enjoyed, so let's jump into what I read this month. The first book that I read this month was The Woman in Covington by Ruth Ware. I hauled this I think last month or the month before. This is a thriller and it follows our main character Lo, who is a sort of a journalist, and she is sent by her boss to review a new cruise ship. And it's sort of like her big break, because normally her boss goes and does all of the review stuff and she just kind of does all the stuff in the office. But she's been given the opportunity to go. So this new luxury kind of cruise ship is sailing around kind of Scandinavia and things, and she gets on. And in the first evening she hears a scream and a splash and goes out to investigate. And sees blood on the kind of glass that separates the two balconies, couldn't think of the word then, yeah, so she calls security and they come back, and then by the time security come back the blood on the glass is gone, and so, you know, there's this kind of, the premise is that nobody believes her, or they find it hard to believe that she heard anything and that sort of thing, and the story kind of goes on from there. I don't want to see too much from that because obviously spoilers, and obviously with a thriller you want to kind of go into it as blind as possible. I did quite enjoy this. I'd heard kind of mixed reviews about it on BookTube. Some people really liked it, others weren't so convinced. I heard a couple of people talk about the ending as not being particularly great. So I was kind of anticipating perhaps not liking it, but actually I really did. I ended up giving it, what did I give it in the end? 3 stars. So I liked it. It wasn't anything kind of powerful or mind-shattering, but it was good. And actually last month I hauled her first novel In a Dark Wood, because I'm quite interested to read the other one. Next up I read The Assassin's Blade. These are the Throne of Glass novellas by Sarah J Maas. I did a TBR for Tome Topple, which happened good 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and I said that I wanted to read Empire of Storms because I hadn't got around to that yet, but people had been telling me, including my husband, that I should read the novellas first before I read Empire of Storm. So I read them. I kind of went into this not particularly, I don't know, enamoured by the thought of reading them. I didn't know whether I was going to enjoy them, wasn't particularly anticipating enjoying them, but actually they were really good. There are, I think it's 6 novellas in here, let me just double check. Oh no, it's 5. So there are 5 novellas in here. Some of them are quite short, sort of like 40 or 50 pages, so you can get through them quite quickly. Others of them are sort of 100 pages or so. It's a bit longer, but when people say that you should read this before Empire of Storms, I think they're absolutely right, because these are stories that focus around Selena's character before the first novel, so before Throne of Glass, so her life as an assassin, lots of the stories and the characters that appear in here kind of start weaving into the storyline of In Empire of Storms. So it's kind of really good having that background information. It was nice learning about Selena's life as an assassin before the first Throne of Glass novel. It kind of gave you some really good background on her character and things. Yeah, and I ended up really enjoying this. And I think I gave it 4 stars, just let me double check my Goodreads. Yeah, I ended up giving that one 4 stars in the end. Definitely worthwhile reading that one. But then it was Tome Topple for a couple of weeks. So I came home from New York. I read the Assassin's Blade novellas in New York, and I forgot to take Empire of Storms with me, and there was this kind of few days when Tome Topple was starting and I didn't have it with me, so I had to wait until I got home. But that was fine. I picked it up as soon as I got home. It's a chunker. It's, you know, just under 700 pages, but I got through it so quickly. Really enjoyed it. This is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. The Throne of Glass series obviously follows Selena, who's an assassin, and then, yeah, I can't really give you much of a storyline because otherwise I'd be spoiling it. But this is the 5th book in the series. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I liked where the plot went. There were lots of twists and turns, and then a massive cliffhanger at the end, which was kind of frustrating, but obviously that's what writers do when they're writing series. So yeah, she's writing, I believe, a novel that focuses around Shoalnecks, which is called something like Tower of Ruins. I may have got that wrong. I can't remember the exact, but she released the title a couple of weeks ago, and I believe that novel focuses around Shoal. I don't think we're going to pick up this storyline again in the next one. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm a little bit confused about what she's going to be doing with this series now. So yeah, if you know, leave me a comment down below. Yeah, just to clarify that for me a little bit. But I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. After I read Empire of Storms, I did have another book on my TBR for Tome Topple, but I didn't end up picking that up in the end, mainly because I'd picked up a book in New York that I was really excited to read, and as soon as I finished Empire of Storms I just couldn't wait anymore. I had to pick it up, and that book is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So like I said, I hauled this, and I've done a full review of this on my channel, which I'll leave linked down below. I absolutely love this book. This is totally worth all the hype. This is a YA book that follows Star, who one night goes to a party. She meets up with an old childhood friend of hers called Khalil. A fight breaks out in the party, and then Khalil offers her a ride home, and on the ride home they get stopped by a police officer, and the police officer ends up shooting and killing Khalil. And it's the story focuses on the kind of backlash of that, I suppose, and kind of what happens with the police officer and what happens with Star and how she copes with it, and the community and how they're coping with it and things like that. I said in my review, if you were wondering whether the hype was justified, absolutely is. This was a 5-star book for me. Really enjoyed it, and you should definitely pick it up. On the same day that I finished The Hate You Give, I also finished a book that I was reading on my Kindle called My Name is Leon. This is a story that follows a young, I think he's 10, a 10-year-old boy called Leon, and the story is told from his perspective. And at the beginning of the novel, he is taken into care, so he's taken away from his mother along with his baby brother Jake, and placed into foster care. And it's just, the book is about his experience of being in foster care and what it's like to be in the care system. And obviously the fact that it's told from a 10-year-old's perspective, you kind of get that very unique kind of take on things. I wasn't totally convinced by the fact that we're supposed to be reading from a 10-year-old. Yeah, I don't know what I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just didn't feel totally convinced by his voice. But it was a really interesting novel from the perspective of the, you know, getting that insight into foster care, getting that insight into the care system. But also the book is set in 1980s Britain, so it was kind of a really unique, for me anyway, I've not read anything set in that kind of era in Britain before, so it was nice kind of going back and looking at what was going on at the time, and the clashes between police and the black community. So it's kind of almost weird that I was reading The Hate You Give kind of alongside that as well. I ended up quite liking this book. I gave it 3 stars. I know some other people on BookTube have raved about it. I wasn't really enamoured or taken aback by it. I did think it was quite interesting and quite clever, but like I said, I wasn't convinced by Leon being a 10-year-old and his voice in the novel. So yeah, 3-star read. Then I picked up my first shortlisted book for the Bailey's Prize this year, and that is First Love by Gwendolyn Riley. I mentioned in a couple of my videos that I wanted to read the shortlist before the winner was announced, I believe on the 7th of June. So I picked up this one mainly because it was the shortest, and I was intrigued by how short it was, and whether, you know, it was going to be fulfilling, I suppose. This follows the story of a woman called, I can't remember her name now, Neve, and she's in an abusive relationship, and the novel sort of flits back and forth between different time periods in her life, different relationships that she's had. So for the majority of the book, she's married to a man called Edwin, who is a really monstrous kind of character. Didn't like him at all. Yeah, but it focuses on other relationships that she's had as well. We get to see insights into her relationship with her mum and dad, and it talks a little bit about her brother as well. This is a very character-driven book, so what you get in here is little snippets of her life, and it flits back and forth in a very disjointed kind of way. There's no, the plot is not linear at all, and I don't know whether you could even call it a plot. There's no sort of, to me anyway, overarching storyline. I don't think that was the point of this book. This was not for me. I didn't like it. I've done a full review on this, which came out, I put up earlier in the week, which I'll link down below, where you can hear a few more of my thoughts on it. Yeah, it just wasn't a book for me. I don't tend to like books that are character driven, although I'll give them a go, and some of them I do like, but I just didn't like the way this was structured. I didn't really think there was much of a point to it. I get what she was trying to say about abusive relationships and about, you know, the kind of character or personality that Neve was. Yeah, but I just didn't think that came through strongly enough for me, so I ended up giving this 2 stars. And then the last book that I read in April, I read for the Dewey's 24-hour readathon. I didn't know whether I was going to participate in it. 24-hour readathons are something that they scare me a little bit, just because, I don't know, whenever I think about a readathon, I think about, you know, reading lots and getting lots of stuff done, and 24 hours is a very short amount of time, and I just don't feel like I can achieve a lot in that time. So it's kind of Sparrow at the moment, we're kind of joining in with it. I finished First Love last Saturday morning, and then I hauled Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I was really looking forward to reading this. And actually I thought to myself, if I pick this up and try and read it on Saturday in one day, then that'll be really good for the readathon. And that's exactly what I did. I read it in one day. It's 300 pages, but it's really easy to read. It's got these kind of really short chapters, but also kind of there's illustrations in here, and there are different kind of text types. So there's like little definitions, and I'm trying to find the IM messages. I'm not going to be able to find it now. No, can't find it. Anyway, there are IM conversations in here and things like that, so it was really quick to get through. I'm sure you know what this is about already, but if you don't, this follows the story of Maddie, and she has spent her whole life indoors because she is allergic to everything. And one day a new family move in next door, and there's a boy in the family called Ollie, and she spots him, and they kind of start having conversations via email and IM and that sort of thing. And then this kind of really cute relationship starts between the two of them. I really enjoyed this. It's a cutesy contemporary book. There's nothing kind of deep about it, obviously. The film of this is coming out. I believe it premiered in New York a couple of days ago, so I am actually really intrigued about going to watch the film now that I have read the book, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So there you go guys, they are all the books that I read in April. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. And what did you read in April that you would recommend? Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.